This event was a special one. I had been waiting for it for the longest time. When Coach Jeffries told us about it, he said it was nothing like the Naperville Central or Proviso West tournament. As it turns out, it was the most important one yet. Sectionals was to be scheduled at Naperville North High School. I waited anxiously for this day to come because of how hard I had worked to qualify. I was planning to give my all in this tournament because my goal was to go to state. The only thing preventing me from doing this was the injury to my right ankle earlier during the season. I had smaller injuries before this, but by far this one was the worst one, yet I was still willing to participate. The day of sectionals, me and my teammate Yvette walked to the bus that leaves at 3:35 p.m. to sectionals. As we start to get on, she asked me if I was still going to play, but I ignored her question. I focused more on the negative scenarios that I was thinking about. When we got to Naperville North, we walked over to the student section to put our bags down and started to get ready to do our warm-ups. We then walked over to the courts to start practicing before the tournament started. We noticed the more competitive schools were there, and we studied their skills and then tried to mimic what they did differently than us. I start to feel more nervous as the host starts calling everybody over to the scores table to start the tournament. She calls everybody by their last name and lineup number. I start to space out and ignore the fact that she's even talking. I felt more anxious than when I first got there. I noticed that my skin started to get goosebumps. I was both stressed and worried thinking about what could happen. I was only thinking about negative scenarios. I took a deep breath and gently rubbed the tape on my ankle just to make sure that it was secure enough for me to play. Afterwards, I got called for my first game and reported to the scores table. I was daydreaming in the moment, so I snapped out of it and I walked over there. I met up with my first opponent from Hinsdale South. I start my game, but I right away twist my ankle in the first half. I try to get back up and seem as if I'm okay, but I end up taking a loss. I realize if I were to lose again, I'd be disqualified. I went back to the student section in frustration and annoyed with myself. I threw my racket thinking it was going to make me feel better, but instead I only felt worse. I felt the throbbing in my ankle at its worst. I was so disappointed because I didn't think that I could make it any further into the tournament. I continued on with my next game against Elgin. I quickly won that one. Another game that was left was the one against Downers Grove South. My ankle was now as swollen as it could have been. I wasn't willing to give up just yet. I had went there with the purpose of going to state, and I was determined to reach my goal. I had worked too hard during the season to just give up before my last game. Now in the last round, as I limped to the court to meet my last opponent from Downers Grove South, Coach Jeffries tells me that the outcome of this game would decide if I were to go to state or not. I feel the chills go up my spine because now I feel the pressure. I felt a sudden knot in my throat that I couldn't get out. Now all I know was that I had to get past the only obstacle I had, which was my injury. Mid-game, I twist my ankle for the second time and I fall over top of it. My opponent and Coach Jeffries ask if I'm okay, but I lie and I say I'm fine. I get back up and start to have flashbacks of the previous seasons. I realize how hard I worked to get where I was, even with the obstacles along the way. I start reminiscing about all the times I failed and thought how this wouldn't be one of those times where I did fail. The more memories I thought about, the faster the game was ending. The faster the game was ending, the faster my heart was racing. I swung my racket full force for the last time, and then I dropped it. My hand was so jittery, I had trouble circling the school's names on the scorecard to signify that I had won. I shook my opponent's hand as we both said good job to each other. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what I had just done with an injury. I was more capable than I really thought that I was. I didn't think anything good would even come out of this game with a bad injury. I didn't even think that I would be able to overcome it, but I did. I didn't let this injury stop me from where I wanted to be, which was at sectionals or state. At the end of the day, I accomplished what I didn't even think was possible.